Welcome back to the Obi-Wan channel. Alright, so here we are working on the Junkyard Dawg. As you can see right here, it is still underneath the bag for today. I haven't opened it up yet. And you can also see that I have started to install pistons on the rods. I got just a little bit ahead of myself. But then again, I didn't, because I wasn't really expecting to replace the rod bolts. But at the same time, for the amount of money that it is, only 75 bucks shipped to my door, and the amount of time that it can take to do it, I figured, what the heck. Now, I know a lot of people are going to think that that's kind of weird, considering I'm junkyarding this thing, as far as like I'm doing it with the bare minimum, but I just can't seem to catch myself from falling into the trap that I always do, which is basically do everything the right way. So I don't know why I'm really doing this. I guess because I know how I drive, or how I plan to drive, and I know I'm gonna probably, if this thing runs good and it swings really smooth and all that, I'm not gonna be afraid to swing this thing to 7,000 RPM if it's possible. Okay, and I actually had, again, like I said, my last junkyard engine that I did was a 60 over, and I had factory rods in there and bolts. That one there would only breathe through about 5,800. That's it. That's all it would give me. So, you know, that's high RPM, but in my mind, not that high of RPM. The long block that I had in this car back in high school, it was a remanufactured long block, so it was all factory, cast pistons, factory rods. I don't know if the company that did the reman job actually replaced the rod bolts or not, but I'm assuming even if they did, they probably used like a Pioneer brand factory replacement, which would be, you know, about 120, 150,000 PSI bolt, and would, you know, do a pretty decent job. And I did swing that thing to 6,800 RPM a couple times. So basically, I'm gonna go ahead and just do this. I went and did the research a little bit. You've got the standard ARP fastener bolt, which is actually in my old set of rods in my Mexican block and rods. And then you have the wave-loc, which is what these are. And then you have the Pro bolts, which is the next step up. I didn't want to spend over $100. So these are wave-loc. One of the reasons why I spent money on the wave-locs, because this was $5 more than the standard ones. Not only that, but if you read on the website, ARP website, they claim that the wave-locs do a very good job of centering the bolt inside of the holes. It's one of their perks, I guess. So meaning it will do a good job of self-centering. And because here's the thing I'm going to get right now. I'm going to get a ton of people saying, you replace the rod bolts, you have to have those rods resized. That's what I'm going to hear. That's the industry standard. And yes, even I know that. However, I'm not going to do it. Okay? This is the part of the junkyard process that I'm going to go with. Now, people are going to say, well, why in the hell would you do that? Why would you spend the $80 and then resort back to your junkyard dogging, you know, of not even doing it the right way? I mean, you put new rod bolts in, and yet you're not going to refinish them, so you can have a problem anyway. Well, you're absolutely right, but I'm going to just take a risk, okay? And it's all going to be here on YouTube for you to see if it blows up or if it doesn't, or if it works or if it doesn't, okay? So it'll be to your benefit, actually. Now, I'm going to do this almost as scientifically as I can, I guess, and let me explain what I'm talking about when I say that. So, as you can see here, I got 4 pistons already mounted to the rods, and then I finally got these, and as you can also see, I've replaced 2 of them already, and I've got 2 others that are yet to go, and I'm going to be doing that. And then, of course, inside this box right here, I've got the rest of the rods not pressed on the piston, so I'll be replacing those before I actually put the pistons and the pins on, okay? And actually, today I'm going to be stopping and starting, kind of pausing this video, so hopefully you get to watch the whole process along the whole way, okay? So let's kind of get started here. Alright, here we are back. This is number 2. As you can see right there, it is stamped number 2. And because these are brand new pistons, as you can see here, I actually stamped number 2 on the piston. And I stamped the number on the piston towards the front where the notch is at. Okay? So why do I do that? I mean, after all, just kind of throwing this thing together, right? Well, this can help with a lot of things. It can help with diagnosing later down the road. It can help with if you ever do disassemble and then you have to reassemble. This can help with a lot of things. So as you can see again, I've got the rod that is number 2, which is not number 2 as in firing order or how Ford would, you know, normally call number 2 cylinder, but just number 2 rod, which basically on a Ford, you got the front of the crank here, and it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way through 8 from one end to the other, whereas if you number the holes, it's on the passenger side 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 on the driver's side, and of course that would not correspond with the numbers that are stamped on the rods. But I'm going to correspond number 2 so that it stays with number 2 rod, not number 2 hole on the engine. Okay? Alright, so that's how that worked, because this would actually be number 4 piston, is what this would be, as far as the hole. Now, scientifically, yeah, well, not really science, but nonetheless, this is as good as it gets, right? So we're going to take this, and we're going to put this dial bore gauge in there, and you can see that we're getting right at about 0. As you can see, I can bring it all the way up to 0, and then it wants to grow bigger as I rock it in the hole, right? But the tightest it will get is right there set at 0, alright? So now, I'm not going to do what I did with those other 2 here because I want to save some time. But what I did do, I'll do it, but not for the sake of demonstrating on video. But what I will do is I will take and I will do the center. I'll rock it sideways. I'll do it over here. I'll do it over here. I mean, I'll do it in multiple spots all the way around. And it will come up with that needle hitting that 0 point, meaning that it's going to hit the same place every single time. Meaning this thing is concentric. It is nice and round. Okay? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these bolts out of there, and I'm going to press in those bolts. Then I'm going to put that back on there, and I'm going to test it again. And guess what? I already did it with those 2, and you want to know what happened? That's right. It came right back to 0. Meaning that everybody that says that you have to go resize your rods, okay, fine, sure, that's the right thing to do, but guess what I just found out? Based on using a dial bore gauge right there, I just found out that putting these wave-loc bolts in, even though replacing them, what does it do? It brings it exactly right back where it was anyway. So, as far as I'm concerned, as long as my clearances are good, I got better bolts in there, I'm going to run it. Okay, hang on, we're going to continue. Okay, here we are back. Hoping that camera's going to work. So this is how we do it. You take that off. Okay. Now we remove the actual rod cap. Now we got to get these bolts out of here. I'm going to take this hammer, hopefully you can see here, and I'm going to hit these right out of here. I'm trying to get it to where I do not hit this. I don't want to damage this area right here. Okay? So I admit I'm hitting the bolt itself. Oh, there we go. That's what I did not want to do. But it looks good. It doesn't look like I put any dent in it. Okay, so we're good there. But that's exactly what I did not really want to do. Is I did not want to hit this area. This mating surface is what you do not want to damage. All right, you want to keep that nice and flat. You want to keep that factory. And again, probably, I believe here, just looking at it, let me take a look good. Yeah, I don't see any damage to it at all. I don't think I hurt it at all. I probably hit it nice and square and flat enough that it did not do any damage. And again, this is why we're going to call this a junkyard engine, because we're going to be doing this in a junkyard fashion. Alrighty, so I'll show you the next step here in a second. Okay, we're back. So now we have the brand new ARP rod bolts here. And then when you get the ARP rod bolts, on the back of the package, right here on the back of the package, there's instructions here, and there's also a little packet of lube. And I always take that packet of lube and I cut it up and I install it into a bottle so it's easier to apply. So that's what I did, and I'm going to put just a little bit right about here in the middle of the bolt, like so. And you see that? Something like that. Okay. Let's see. Do it to both of them. Both of these bolts here. Just a little bit in the middle there. Here we go. Now, as you can see, the bolt head has a certain pattern to it. It's got a flat side. It's got a rounded side. You got to get the flat side to the inside of the rod. Put it up in here like so. Get it lined up just a little bit, and then I'm going to take the hammer. I did it right here. I'm just going to slightly tap it, and that's just going to keep it from coming out. It's going to keep it from falling out. Okay. Put this one in. Do the same thing there. Line it up just a little bit. Okay. So the reason why I'm doing that, and if you can see here, I'm going to try to see if I can see the cam. There we go. Now you can see that the lubricant is in there. It's kind of stuck in there. It won't, if I tip it upside down, it won't fall back out. That's the whole purpose of that. Now, I'm going to take basically this socket here, okay? And I smoothed this off right here as much as I could, you know, because it is an impact socket, and it starts to build up little edges here. But I smoothed it off with a file. And I'm going to take this and put it over the top of this right here. I'm going to go over here to the press, put this on the bottom, put the press right up here, okay, up here, there we go, and then I'm going to push the rod downward until the rod bolt gets pushed up into the rod itself. Now, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that camera over there to demonstrate that or not, but maybe what I'll do is I'll actually press it and then probably come back here and get the camera. Hold on, next step. Alright, we're back. I think this is going to be the easiest way to show you. But as you can see here, I've got the rod in the press here. Pistons down inside there, which, by the way, this is the Harbor Freight Central Machinery 20-ton shop press. And man, that I was so lucky. I about had to pull and press these pistons back off, because these pistons here barely fit inside the bed here. So I was really close to having a disaster. Well, not a disaster, but having to remove the piston. But thank God I didn't. Alright, so as you can see here, I've got the fastener head right there onto the plate. I put this socket right over the top of that, and that would keep, you know, that centered right there. And then I put the press on top of this, and this is pneumatic, so I'm actually pressing it down with the pneumatic until I'm just close, and then I grab the handle and I pump it myself, and you can feel the resistance. You can tell that you come down and you bottomed all the way out, and you don't want to put so much pressure to where this again, it's a lot like, you know, banging that with a hammer. You don't want to get this socket to where you're pressing on it and you actually impress a ring from this socket onto the rod area. You don't want to, you want that to remain nice and flat. And that again is why it's important that when you use a socket, and again, this is a impact socket. When you use, you know, impact sockets, they tend to, like I said, have a little buildup at the corners, you know, just from, you know, banging inside of the, you know, that arbor of the impact itself, banging inside that socket. You got to make sure that that is nice and smooth and flat, because otherwise that little sharp metal edges will come down, and using it in this example will actually dent into your rod metal here, and you do not want to have that happen. You want to keep these caps to where, you know, that metal is you know, again, the machine finish that it currently has. Otherwise, yes, you have to grind these things and get them resized. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to do the other side, and then I'll come back over here and put the dial bore gauge back in, and I'll show you that it will come right back to 0. Okay, we're back. As you can see here, I got the rods pressed in now. They're fully seated. You can see a little bit of the fastener grease squished out there, so we definitely got it in there. Now all we got to do is just line up the cap, number 2 and number 2. Line them up like so. Look at that. Okay, fits. Okay, then I gotta get some fastener nuts. Apologize, it's taking a little bit here. I thought I had all this ready, but I guess I didn't. Okay, so we're gonna put this here. Put that down there like that. Now, of course, everybody, next thing I'm gonna hear is this ain't the right way to do this. You're gonna tell me that I need to actually torque this, and so this thing here is designed to actually when it feels that it gets down tight, it's going to stop, it's going to shut off. So this thing here is capable to, I think it's almost 300 foot-pounds, but that thing is just barely taken off, but it automatically shut down. My point is this torqued properly? Not exactly. But yet, at the same time, if you can see right there, look at that. You can't even see the parting line, really. I mean, same here pretty much, other than when you see that right there. I mean, I'm going to torque these properly, of course, when I put them in the engine. All I want to do now is I want to get these things tight to where that gap is completely gone. And of course, when I actually go to torque these things, I'm actually going to put some of this lubricant here on the threads and on the bottom underneath the heads of these bolts, these washer heads that are molded into the nut rather, and I'm going to actually torque it the proper way. But right now what I want to do is I want to get these things pretty tight, and I want to put that dial bore gauge back in there. So let's do that. Put that dial bore gauge back in, and see if I can make this happen for the camera here, because I hate to take the camera and move it. Alright, can I see that? Yeah, I can. Alright, here we go. Bang. Where's that going? Oop, I fell out of the hole there. Where's that going? It's going to 0. So, and again, I'm not, for the sake of the video, I'm not gonna actually, you know, spend the time to show you that it will be the same, you know, all the way around, because I'm trying to save time here on the video. But the truth of the matter is, let me just take this thing off of here and bring it over here. But the truth of the matter is when I go to put this in, and I dial bore gauge it over here and over here and over here and every angle, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to come right back to that 0 point that I got set, which was set on this thing with the original rod bolts. Okay, so what you have here right now is the ARP wave-loc ARP rod bolts retrofitted into these rods right here. And I'm not going to have them resized or refinished. You saw that cap, it slid right on. Some people might say, well, that was just too loose. Well, what the heck does that, I mean, so let's just say we put these rod bolts in there and we went down and we actually resized these rods. That rod cap is going to fit on there just as loose then as it is right now. I mean, these holes inside here are not going to change in diameter just because you go and you resize this. It's not going to change nothing. So I can feel no gap or no parting line right here. So basically what I'm saying is this rod cap has not shifted left or right, or it's not crooked, at least not by my feeling of my hand. Now if we put a micrometer on it, could it possibly be crooked? Yeah, I suppose it could be, but is it likely? Probably not. Okay, we just witnessed that this thing here returns back to 0 on this particular rod. I've proven it twice already over there. Again, I'm gonna hear so much shit for this, I guarantee it. Why are you putting, you know, aftermarket rod bolts, nice ones in without resizing your rods? If this is supposed to be a junkyard engine, it doesn't look so much junkyard anymore. You're just confusing all of us, blah, blah, blah. Well, you know what? I'm doing what I do because I want to do, and I don't give a shit what the hell you think I should do. But I am putting this out there so that you can see what I am doing. And then, again, I'm going to be posting this on YouTube the whole time, as long as I'm not banned from YouTube, which could happen, by the way, because they don't like my views. But anyway, if I am in that position where this is happening throughout from start to finish, you get to witness the whole way, and then you get to take that information and you get to say to yourself, well, you know what? That guy did this and it worked, or that guy did this and it didn't work. I mean, I don't know. I'm really hoping that this will work. I'm really, in my opinion, believing 90% chance that all this is going to work. The only thing I have any doubt of at this particular point in time, honestly, is the weight balance. Because that crank and those rods and those pistons obviously are not all from the same engine. These rods I got shipped. They look like they were in great shape. As you may have saw in my other videos, I actually, ground on them and bead blasted them, stress relieved them. That crank over there, I did not balance it, but I did grind off, all the sharp edges, etc., just real briefly. And these pistons here with the pins, I actually did, as you can see, I sanded and ground on them to get each piston with a pin all weighed up nicely. As you can see right here, I'm keeping the pins, with the correct piston. So if you see here, I've got a number 5, and you go looking for piston number 5, wherever that's at. That one there happens to be number 6. Right here, number 5. Got it sitting here in my little, makeshift jig that I made. That's the other thing I might actually show, is how I'm doing that. But if you watch all of that, keeping everything closely together, basically all my pistons with the pins, they weigh exactly the same. All my rods weigh the same. I even tried to weigh the big end because I know it's out there in the crankshaft kind of swinging at its own thing. I tried to make sure that each weight big end was very close, and according to my really cheap glass food scale, which weighs up to 11 pounds, and it also does grams, I am exactly the same according to that thing right there. And I did not put the piston or whatever I was weighing on there and just, that was good enough. No, what I did was, if I was I had a piston that was what you would call the the standard, and I would put that on there, and then I would take it off and I'd put the other piston on, and then I would go back and forth 3 or 4 times, making sure that that scale was going to land on the same number each and every single time. And I only accepted it if it did. If it landed on a different number, then I would, take it off, kind of put my hand on it, reset the tare, and try it again. Until I got 3 consistent times where that number landed every single time. That's the only way I would trust it. When I did the big ends, one of the biggest things I found is you had to have that rod in a certain spot, exact certain spot, in order for it to always read the same. And I set up a little jig here and made it to where that rod would land on that glass table exactly in the same spot every single time. And once again, swap back and forth, back and forth, back and forth 3 different times, making sure that it was the same. So I would say the only concern I have is that these pistons, because they're brand new, because they're hypoeutectic, because they're not the old-fashioned cast pistons, which would have been used with this crank and those rods from the factory. I don't know if those pistons, even though they weigh the same, but yet the whole dynamic weight of the whole thing, if those things are a little bit heavier or a little bit lighter, it could throw the weight dynamics off of the entire combination. And the only way to fix that, of course, is to go get this thing balanced. But right now, $260, I just don't want to do it. And also, technically, these are supposed to be a factory direct replacement. So if these are indeed a factory direct replacement, then there shouldn't be any problem to making this work. Okay? So the video's getting kind of long here. I'm probably going to do another video on actually how I heat those pistons up and put them into, put the pins in there, because got to tell you, I learned a lot there. All right. That's all I got for now. Like, subscribe. Make sure you like. Make sure you subscribe, but at least like, okay? I appreciate it. And, follow along, because you're going to see this thing run, and you're going to know exactly the end result of all of this craziness that I'm doing, okay? Appreciate you guys. Come back. We're going to have a lot more.